It's Darth Vader, watch out! And he's got a lightsaber.
Your father's lightsaber.
It was more a symbol of a simpler time.
The Halliburton says, okay, choose your lightsaber handle. I was gone at that point.
Star Wars is no stranger to evolution. But throughout this evolution, there is one element of the franchise that stands out as uniquely Star Wars: the lightsaber. Taking a look back at the series made me wonder if I could identify the psychology that made the lightsaber so memorable in the first place, and if it's possible to recreate that psychology in new ways. So why is the lightsaber so iconic? I'm a storyteller. I love trying to figure out how people think and how they process things. The more I do that, the more I understand how to improve my stories. Whether you love it or hate it, Star Wars is extremely memorable, and the lightsaber plays a major part in making it stand out. I learned a lot, so let's start off with the effect itself.
The original concept was that the Jedi would fight with swords, and then I wanted to make it a futuristic kind of sword, so I made it a lightsaber.
The George Lucas approach to the lightsaber was simple. There are two main elements that are important. First is the visual element, second is the sound design. Visually, the lightsaber wasn't much to look at. Mark Hamill himself described the lightsabers as chintzy. It was just a metal stick with a light material on it. But this minimalistic approach was exactly what was needed in order for it to look like it fit in this world. Now, the sound design especially goes a long way in convincing us of the lightsaber's presence. It needed to be subtle enough to not drown out dialogue, but strong enough to feel powerful for climactic moments. The added bonus was that the sound was unique. The sound designer Ben Burtt took the better part of a year to get the sound design just right. And there's no denying it's effective.
Yeah, I basically set out to make a modern fairy tale.
Let's also look at the emotional context of the story when a lightsaber is present. In storytelling, there's a concept called suspension of disbelief. That is when you take a person or a place or a scenario that would normally be considered unbelievable, and you make it seem believable. In order to create suspension of belief, you need to create a world and set up rules for that world and maintain consistency throughout the telling of your story. George Lucas's plan to create suspension of disbelief relied on making this universe feel aged.
George had this idea of a used universe. I remember the idea came down from him. It also needed to look aged.
And even though George set up this aged universe throughout the entire first act of Episode 4, whether purposefully or not, he saved the bulk of exposition to use a lightsaber to set up suspension of disbelief in his aged universe.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic, before the Empire.
And it didn't end there.
Darth Vader. The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. Learn about the Force.
If you pay attention to the series,
hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
You'll begin to notice that more often than not, major character-defining moments and emotional climaxes involve a lightsaber in some capacity. So what we've got is a simple visual element that has a very distinct sound design that is being showcased every time there is an important moment in the story. Luke learning about the Force. Luke, your dad was killed by Vader. Luke, Vader is killing your mentor. And this trend continues throughout subsequent movies, like Luke, I Am Your Father. So naturally, the lightsaber would eventually become a reminder of the emotional context of the films and how we were feeling when this simple prop and unique sound was presented to us on screen.
Is there a point in any of the three of them at which you still feel your heart pounding every time you see it?
Well, I still get a shiver up my back every time Luke and his father confront themselves in that final battle.
That brings me to my last point. In psychology, a retrieval cue is a term used to describe a prompt that helps us remember certain things. Now, at the time of release, Star Wars was in trouble of failing miserably. Lucas himself was worried and went on vacation so he wouldn't have to witness his perceived failure.
You know, because everything he worked on for years, you know, many millions of dollars, everything is at stake.
Producers also needed to try and market this new film. They knew that they had a limited science fiction fan base and had their work cut out for them. But they did know a few things about their target audience and a potential new way to reach them. Their target audience read comic books and they played with toys. So they decided to experiment with something new.
It's Kenner's Star Wars action figures.
Now I know the Force is with us.
Kenner's Star Wars action figures, each sold separately.
Luckily for Lucas, his film resonated with audiences. And ironically, this new way of marketing his film would end up becoming a type of retrieval cue for everyone that watched his movies. And the lightsaber, in its simplicity, could even be mimicked with just a stick. At the time of release, Star Wars would fundamentally change the way the film industry worked and would inspire films that came after it. But realistically, Star Wars only worked because George Lucas was not afraid to experiment. Now that I understand some of the psychology behind why the lightsaber is so memorable, I've realized that filmmakers use these three elements all the time through music, sound design, and unique visuals with varying degrees of success. There's not necessarily a way to know if you're following these things effectively until after you've finished your work. But in order to know if something will work, we have to try it. And that, to me, is the message of Star Wars, and the overall lesson that I got out of researching the lightsaber.
What's the fascination of it to you, do you think?
I think a marvelous, healthy innocence.
If this content was interesting to you, don't forget to share your ideas or comments down below. Also, feel free to subscribe. We make short films and other filmmaking related content. We appreciate your time and feedback as we post videos. So thanks a ton for sticking around, and we'll see you in the next video.